Since getting in an awesome relationship with my amazing partner, she has introduced me to anime. In fact, if we're not watching Family Guy or The Simpsons, we're watching anime. Whether it's the cute and amazing Ponyo, or an incredible series like Spy X Family, which, by the way, is on Netflix right now. Also, word of advice, do not watch it in English. Watch it with Japanese and subtitles, trust me. But anime has been around for so many years, and it has given us some of the most greatest animated films, and with one of the most recent, The Boy and the Heron, winning the Oscar for Best Animated Feature. But while as much as anime does get a good recognition, to the average viewer, people sadly don't watch it. Despite my parents loving the animation of Disney and Pixar, if I suggested for them to watch, say, one of my favourite anime films, Howl's Moving Castle, I think they would turn their nose up at me. And yet, a lot of anime has very mature content, with some of them not being aimed at children at all. In contrast, you have Disney, who is universally loved and accepted by everyone. So why is the average viewer in the western parts of the world just not as interested in anime? Many people were annoyed that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse lost to Boy and the Heron at the Oscars without even seeing the movie. Anime, of course, is loved in Japan and way more socially accepted there. So today in this video, we're going to be delving into why anime should be a little bit more socially acceptable, and if you're not watching it, then you definitely should be. Anime, of course, is loved in Japan and way more socially accepted there. In the western parts of the world, anime has risen in popularity, especially thanks to the likes of streaming platforms, making anime way more accessible to the rest of the world. A lot of anime is, of course, dubbed into other languages to make it easier for audiences, some of which having very well-known actors actually dub these roles. To name a few would be Christian Bale.
I'll make sure to draw them off, but wait a bit before you head back outside.
Liam Neeson.
This is the purest ocean water, and it keeps me from drying out on land.
And Samuel Jackson.
Hey, could you give a brother a break, yo?
So considering how a lot of famous actors are being used to make these films more socially acceptable, what's stopping the average person from watching them? For what we need to look at is why something like Disney is so successful. Not only is the brand of Disney slightly more recognizable, but Disney are known for doing films that are more family friendly, which I can't think why.
Emotional damage!
I don't think Disney are ever going to give us an adult-only animated movie. So is it the fact that anime is just too mature? A film like Grave of the Fireflies is seen as one of the most depressing and mature animated films there have ever made. If you have never seen it, I warn you now, when I first watched it, it can be a very tough watch. So we know that animation can be very mature, and some of the best animated films have mature content. Disney are of course known for giving us some very dark scenes and hard to watch moments, but they always have a more light-hearted nature for their stories. But then I turn your attention towards films like Ponyo and My Neighbor Totoro, two films which are way more dedicated towards children. These two films are some of the cutest films to come out, and while there are films like Trolls and the Emoji Movie, which are films heavily marketed towards children, Ponyo and My Neighbor Totoro give us amazing films without the need for stupid poop jokes and crappy childish humor. Ponyo is one of the most whimsical, fun, and imaginative stories to ever be put on screen. So I think we can agree that anime can be for the entire family, but also can have some very mature content for older audiences. But what stops that average viewer from being interested in it? Most children and their parents' introduction to anime was Pokemon. Pokemon took the world by storm. The average parent probably didn't watch Pokemon, but they kinda knew who Pikachu was. So with Pokemon being primarily aimed at kids, it was seen as nothing more than a kid show. The Japanese art style of the show was nothing compared to other cartoon kids shows at the time, giving its distinctive look. Despite Pokemon, especially in later years, having a much more serious tone and art style, it is still primarily aimed at kids, despite adults being able to enjoy it as well. Now, in the western parts of the world, Disney is of course way more part of the culture. Most of the people I know definitely have a favorite Disney movie, and for a lot of people, it is a staple to go to Disney World and experience that place for what it is. So Disney is part of Western culture, and anime is part of Japanese culture. But if you do go to Japan, Disney is of course a worldwide popular company and is also very popular there. But with the way animation is portrayed from the likes of Disney and Pixar, animation is usually seen as being for kids only, or if anything, safe for kids to watch. I have said so many times on my channel in the best possible way that Pixar films are not made for kids. But while the more mature themed films from Pixar like Inside Out and Up are very mature, they are of course deemed safe for kids to watch. But with something like Princess Mononoke, that film is of course easily not safe for your kids to to watch. Because of this, anime isn't as subtle with its mature themes. While Disney have tackled mature themes in the past, the level of violence, sexual themes, and graphic animation that anime has compared to Disney does unfortunately give it a bit of a bad reputation. And given how Disney have always advertised themselves as a family-friendly company, I don't think they're ever going to give us an animated film that is purely for adults only. So do we only see anime as either silly cartoons made for kids, or mature animation that goes way too hard with the animation? Make no mistake, anime can be very over the top at times. For me, I believe that's what makes anime even more special and interesting. While Disney continue to monopolize all corners of the world, anime likes to keep this low profile and keeping its roots embedded in Japan. It understands that its audiences are special to those who understand it. Part of what makes anime special is actually trying to understand it. You can't just sit back and watch anime in the background. You must see what lies underneath, the over-the-top humor, the casual sexual nature of some shows, and keeping its Japanese roots intact. So while Disney is taking over the world, I think it's nice to know that anime comes from a small place in the world, creating some incredible forms of animation that stick to traditions of where it came from. If you have never watched any anime, I highly recommend watching them as they bring us some of the most refreshing forms of animation with some beautiful films. Ponyo and My Neighbor Totoro are some of the cutest and funniest films they have ever given us, and if you want something a little bit more mature, films like Your Name and Howl's Moving Castle are great ways to get started. But thank you so much for joining me in this video. If you have watched anime, let me know some of your favorites in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more great videos on all things animation, and follow me on all my social media platforms as well. Thank you so much for watching me, guys, and I will see you all in the next one.